CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch.
And I don't think that you can say that CNN is anything but fair. I mean, look at that. We covered President Biden's exit from the race very closely, the pressure on him to get out. And I feel like I can speak with authority on this. I'm from Alabama. I'm from a very red state. I have a very conservative family, a lot of them who are Trump voters. They watch my show every night. And I think they know that they can trust me, that, you know, we call shit on every.
If you thought the tension between Kaitlan Collins and Bill Maher had settled, think again. Kaitlan seems determined to challenge conservative values, even at the risk of her own reputation, while Bill Maher isn't backing down either. In my previous video, I covered the heated history of their clash, and today, we're diving into their latest exchanges and the reactions fueling the conversation. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this.
Kaitlan Collins, I'm inside the East Wing of the White House right now, and if you look over my left shoulder, you can see the portrait of President Barack Obama. That, of course, was his presidential portrait that was unveiled a few years ago and installed here at the White House. One question that we had coming in was whether or not that portrait would remain up. We've seen Trump removing the portraits of his former officials at the Pentagon, like General Mark Milley and his former Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper. But so far, all the portraits in the East Wing of the White House still appear to be up.
It seems like Kaitlan Collins and CNN are more focused on criticizing Trump and even taking shots at left-leaning figures like Bill Maher than reporting real news. If they were truly dedicated to journalism, would they really be obsessing over the portraits hanging in the White House East Wing? Unless, of course, they're just searching for another excuse to go after Trump. Spoiler alert, we'll get to that in a minute. But with an ongoing economic crisis, are presidential portraits really the priority? Talk about misplaced focus. And the audience isn't staying quiet. One commenter wrote, "What a stupid thing to be reporting on at a time like this." Others blamed this type of coverage for CNN's struggles, arguing that the network's downfall is due to focusing on the trivial. Still, some sided with Kaitlan, with one person suggesting she seemed disappointed that more portraits weren't removed. And then there's the inevitable comparison to Jim Acosta. Many believe Kaitlan and Jim have a lot in common.
On one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign, in midterms, that
here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
And why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of.
I don't know about you, but I definitely see the similarities. Anyway, back to the video. Let's be real, knowing Kaitlan Collins, she didn't cover those White House portraits just for fun. The woke crowd doesn't do anything by accident. Every move, every second, every word is carefully planned, especially when it comes to attacking Trump and undermining the Republican agenda. Think about it. Kaitlan was probably checking if Obama's portrait was still up just to set Trump up for another round of social media backlash. Why else would Trump remove some portraits but leave Obama's? Seems a little too convenient, doesn't it? This is exactly why Bill Maher has questioned her impartiality, because more often than not, she seems less like a journalist and more like a spokesperson for Kamala Harris. Check this out.
The fact that Kamala doesn't talk to the press. In a way, I feel like it's more insulting than what Trump does. And Trump says you're the enemy of the people, which is pretty bad. But she's kind of saying I don't need you. I'm not talking to you. You don't matter. You're not relevant anymore. To me, that's even worse than I hate you. It's like, I don't think about you.
I don't know if it's worse than denigrating the press on a daily basis, which is what Donald Trump did. I mean, I covered him in the White House every day as a correspondent.
See what I mean? The question was simple. Why did Kamala Harris avoid talking to the press ahead of the presidential election? But somehow, Kaitlan Collins turned it into yet another opportunity to drag Donald Trump into the conversation, a classic move. Instead of addressing why the sitting vice president was dodging the media like it was a landmine, Kaitlan used Trump as a convenient distraction. It's an old trick straight out of the CNN playbook. When in doubt, blame Trump. Forget holding leaders accountable, forget asking tough questions, just pivot to Trump and hope nobody notices the dodge. But of course, Bill Maher noticed, and he called them out for it. And honestly, can you blame Trump for calling CNN the enemy of the people when a so-called journalist can't answer a basic question without veering off to bash him? That's not journalism, that's activism disguised as news. It's biased, it's dishonest, and it's exactly why so many people don't trust mainstream media anymore. This wasn't about seeking the truth, it was about covering for Kamala Harris. And the sad part? CNN seems to think no one will catch on. But Maher sees it for what it is, and he's not afraid to call it out.
Just gushing about how great a speech it was. And I think she did fine. I didn't think it was as good as they were making it out to be. It does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View.
I don't think that you can say that CNN is anything but fair. Everyone who was speaking last night, it's not like they were all Democrats. I mean, Dana Bash, Jake Tapper, Abby Phillip.
They come across
giving
that way.
Analysis.
They come across that way. In a moment like that, it was like 5 to...
Maher even went as far as comparing CNN to The View. Now that takes some serious guts. He's one of the few who isn't afraid to call out bias, even when it's coming from his own side. And honestly, that comparison cracked me up. Of all the talk shows in America, Maher put CNN on the same level as The View. That's not just a jab, it's a full-on roast. Think about it. The View is basically the hot mess express of daytime TV, where facts take a back seat and shouting matches pass for debate. And here's Maher saying, yeah, CNN's right there now. It's brutal, but is he wrong? When CNN's reporting is packed with bias, spin, and emotional outbursts, how different is it from The View? Maybe it's time they just own the comparison. At least The View is upfront about being opinion-driven drama. CNN, on the other hand, still clings to the illusion of journalism. But when you're serving up gossip and partisan rants, is there really a difference? Maher didn't just throw shade, he chucked the whole tree. And CNN? They're still pretending it's all sunshine and rainbows. Oh, and speaking of people tossing trees, the current BO? Tom Homan.
How many days after Trump is sworn in, before this effort to carry out the mass deportations begins? I know you said it starts on day one, but after how many days will we actually start to see that happening?
Day one.
This effort overall, in terms of what you believe you need, and you're obviously deeply familiar with how this works and what's ahead of you. You had previously said about $86 billion was the minimum this project will cost. Do you have a better estimate now as you've been developing your plan?
I never said 86 billion. That was a CNN reporter that said 86 billion.
I love that little dramatic pause from Tom Homan before he dropped the hammer. It was like he knew Kaitlan Collins was about to hit him with that question and had his answer locked and loaded, ready to fire. Honestly, it felt like he'd been waiting for that exact moment, because let's be real, everyone saw that question coming from a mile away. Woke journalists are as predictable as a sunset, you know it's coming, you just don't know how many dramatic clouds they'll throw in for effect. And Kaitlan? She walked right into it. It's almost like these journalists follow the same tired playbook, find a conservative, ask a gotcha question, and hope they slip up. But Homan wasn't just ready, he was 3 steps ahead. That pause? It wasn't hesitation. It was the calm before the storm. He let Kaitlan think she had the upper hand before flipping the script. And that's what makes it so satisfying, watching the predictable media narrative crash and burn when it meets actual facts and logic. Priceless. But the best part was still to come.
86 billion. I mean, what price you put on the young women that have been murdered and raped in this country? What price you put on, the lives of all these little girls? There's numerous cases. What price you put on national security? Because we know a record number of people on terrorist watch that's been called on the southern border. We also know there's over 2.2 million gotaways. How many of them came from countries sponsoring terror? What price you put on the thousands of angel moms and dads who their children were buried by their parents because their children were killed by someone that's not supposed to be?
Another hammer blow for the so-called border experts. Did you catch how CNN plays the misinformation game? First, they throw out a narrative, and then, like clockwork, they frame it as if it's coming directly from Trump's camp. A classic bait and switch. Tom Homan never mentioned that $86 billion figure. CNN did, but here comes Kaitlan, asking about that exact number, pretending it came straight from Homan himself. It's the media equivalent of planting evidence and then acting shocked when they discover it. This is how the game works. CNN floats a figure into the public conversation, lets it simmer, and then traps conservatives with it as if it's some universally accepted fact. And if you dare push back, suddenly, you're the one accused of spreading misinformation. It's manipulative, it's dishonest, and honestly, it's getting old. But Homan? He wasn't having any of it. He saw the trap coming and tore it apart piece by piece. And that's the beauty of it, watching CNN's carefully crafted narrative unravel when faced with actual facts. It's like watching a magician get caught palming cards, awkward, painful, and oh so satisfying.
There are different estimates of how many undocumented immigrants are in the country and you have said everyone is on the table. If it's 11 million people and what that number looks like, what is your goal over the 4 years of the total number of people that you would like to? If you have the number of beds that you would like, if you have the number of ICE deportation officers and others that can help you with that, what is your ultimate number of that deportation that you would like to see when you're done with your job?
I don't have a number. We want to arrest as many people as we can that are in the country illegally, again, based on prioritization. We want to arrest every criminal, every gang member that's here illegally, that's public safety. We want to arrest every fugitive, those who had due process at great taxpayer expense and have an ordered deportation but didn't leave and became a fugitive. We had over 1.5 million of those. And look, we got millions of people here illegally. I've said, if you're here illegally, you're not off the table. I mean, it's a violation of law. It's a crime to enter this country illegally.
Aside from Bill Maher, Tom Homan is quickly becoming one of my favorite people right now. I can't get enough of the verbal smackdowns he's handing out to Kaitlan Collins. It's like watching a pro in action. Instead of focusing on real solutions to the border crisis, Kaitlan seems more concerned with the money allocated for the operation. But here's the trick. She's not digging into the numbers because she genuinely cares about how the funds are being used. No, she's probably just looking for a way to blame the Trump administration for wasting taxpayer dollars. And that ties right back to what I mentioned earlier about Kaitlan snooping around the White House portraits. Everything the woke mob does is carefully calculated to catch people off guard and spin the narrative in their favor. It's never about the truth. It's about setting traps, twisting facts, and hoping no one notices. But with people like Homan delivering blow after blow, it's getting harder for them to keep up the act. The more they push, the more their game becomes obvious. And trust me, people are starting to notice. As for Tom Homan, he's just getting started.
And then, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch.
And I don't think that you can say that CNN is anything but fair. I mean, look at that. We covered President Biden's exit from the race very closely, the pressure on him to get out. And I feel like I can speak with authority on this. I'm from Alabama. I'm from a very red state. I have a very conservative family, a lot of them who are Trump voters. They watch my show every night. And I think they know that they can trust me, that, you know, we call.
Notice how Kaitlan conveniently mentions her family's Republican background without disclosing her own political leanings. That wouldn't be an issue if she openly identified as a Democrat. Everyone is entitled to their views. But when you're in a position that demands objectivity, transparency is non-negotiable. Viewers deserve to know if personal biases are influencing the narrative. Journalism should be about facts, not feelings, ideologies, or political allegiances. If Kaitlan wants to maintain credibility, she needs to do her job with asterisk impartiality, setting aside any personal convictions. Otherwise, her reporting risks turning into a partisan monologue rather than objective journalism. And let's be honest, trust in the media is already fragile. The least she can do is be upfront, fair, and focused on the facts. Transparency isn't just a virtue, it's a asterisk responsibility. And with that, we wrap up today's episode. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.